Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of WB Mason Presents The Joe Girardi Show. The star of the show is the manager of the New York Yankees. That's Joe Girardi. I'm Michael Kay, and later on you'll get a chance to be the star of the show yourself. Just go to AskJoe@YesNetwork.com, Facebook, Twitter, and throughout the week you could ask him questions. We'll take the best ones, but we've got a lot of questions to ask him right off the bat. Joe, I've got to ask you. Everybody is hurt. There's a secretary on the second floor that's hurt, and you guys are playing very good baseball. How is that possible?
Guys are stepping up, and our pitching has been really good. I mean, we're winning a lot of games 4-2, 5-4, 3-2, and guys are getting very timely hits when we need them. You can go back to Lyle Overbay's home run off of Dickey in the 7th inning the other day. I know it was a little while ago, but it was very timely, and that's what we're doing.
All right, now what would a Yankee week be without more injuries? So, Youkilis goes on the DL. Are you beating yourself up because you played him that Saturday?
Absolutely not. The player told me he was ready to go. And
is he beating himself up?
I don't think so. I think if he would have tried the next day, probably the same thing would have happened. So it's just something that he has a back issue. We'll knock it out with the rest, and we'll get him back.
Now, I think Brian Cashman said that the game that he played on Saturday, there was a play at first base where he had to make a dive, and I guess Robertson had slipped?
Correct.
Do you think that exacerbated the problem?
Could have had something to do with it. You don't ever know. It could have been one swing. I mean, that's the interesting thing about a back. Sometimes it just happens, and you can't prevent it. And for Uke, it happened. He came back stiff on Sunday, and we ended up DLing him.
Well, since you can only backdate him to that Saturday, he can be available on May 13th. Gut feeling, you think you get him back then?
I do. I think we'll get him back. My hope is that we will, but I think we'll get him back.
All right. Also on the Yankee disabled list is now the job of Chamberlain as well, and that kind of came out of nowhere. What happened there?
He was just warming up on Wednesday, and he felt something, and we thought it might be a couple days, but it ended up being a little bit more, so we put him on the DL. Rib cages are tricky, so we want him to rest for a week, probably before he tries to do anything, and then we'll try to get him going again. We don't think it's going to be too long. Hopefully it won't be. He's a big part of our bullpen.
All right, now what's interesting about this Yankee team, even before the injuries, with the free agents' defections, you kind of figured that this team wasn't going to hit home runs. And last year was a great home run hitting team. This team is hitting home runs. Why?
Well, because I think you have some guys that have hit home runs in the past, and they're just doing what they did in the past. Now, you may not have a 40 to 50 homer guy in that mix, but Vernon Wells is a guy that's had the ability to hit 30. Hafner's had the ability to hit 40. Overbay's had the ability to hit 20 or so, and these guys are hitting home runs. You're getting some home runs out of our catchers that maybe people didn't expect. I think we got 5 in that position, so our guys are just putting good at-bats up there, and they're getting timely hits, like I said.
What's interesting is the way that the lineup was configured. The general thought was that it was going to be the Bronx Burners. You're going to be running a lot, playing small ball. Now, you run a little bit, but you certainly have not changed the way you play baseball from last year.
No, but I think that we still have the ability to run more than we have. So I think you'll see us, if these guys get going a little bit more, we'll run a little bit. But we are hitting the ball out of the ballpark, and we're playing smart.
You can try to analyze baseball from here until the end of the day, and it really does come down to starting pitching. That's the bottom line. If you get good starting pitching, even if you don't score many runs, you're going to score, you're going to win games. So let's talk about your starting pitching. Is it better than you thought it was going to be, or is it right where you think it's going to be?
No, we thought it was going to be pretty good. We looked at the guys that we were bringing back in the years that they had in 2012. We thought our starting pitching had a chance to be really good. I mean, we thought that could be a strength of our club, the pitching that we had with the bullpen. And, CeCe's gotten off to an okay start. Kuroda's been very good. Pettit's been really pretty good. Hughesy's kind of got it going for us. We get a good start out of Phelpsy the other day. Nova has struggled a little bit, but he's on the DL and he's on the men. So we kind of like where it's going. It seems like, during the 5-day rotation, you get 3 guys that throw really well, and the other 2 guys keep you in the game, and that's why we're winning games.
Also important that you have a 9th-inning guy that puts things away, and there was a lot of concern about Mariano after missing 5 months last year, how he would be this year at the age of 43. All he's been is perfect.
He's been great.
How's that possible?
Well, I wasn't really concerned about his arm and how he would throw the baseball. I think everyone was a little bit concerned because he was 43 and he's coming off a knee injury. But I always felt if his knee healed and he could run and cut and do the things that he wouldn't have a problem pitching, and that's what has happened.
Now, Saturday used him in a strange way. I just want to ask you about that. You could have used him at the beginning of the inning. You bring him in after a single given up by Kelly. It's still not a safe situation.
Right.
A lot of people don't want to bring in closers in non-safe situations. Why'd you do it?
Well, we had Thursday off. He didn't pitch on Friday. I knew we have Monday off, so I figured, I'm going to give him a little breathing room. I'm not going to, let this inning get a couple guys on it. If another guy gets on somehow. Now you're talking about the tying run comes to the plate, so I wanted to give him some breathing room.
All right, so he's part of the old guard, and part of the reason the Yankees have played so well is the new people that they brought in. Let's go over them very quickly. Number one, Vernon Wells. Looked like a shot player last year, even the year before that. Now he looks rejuvenated. What is it? Is it the NY? What's going on?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's the American League East. Maybe he loves it out on the East Coast, but he's been great. He's played a great left field. Been in the middle of our orders, had big hits, has hit home runs, done everything that you've asked him to do.
Seems like a good guy, too.
Oh, he's tremendous in the clubhouse, so he's been great.
All right, Travis Hafner. The only question with Hafner is keeping him healthy. How
Right.
much is that in the back of your mind all the time?
Well, it is, and we're going to spell him against some left-handers, and now we're going to Colorado, next week. So he's not, maybe he's a pinch hitter. He's not going to play the field. I mean, if you remember what he said, I have a glove, and anyone's welcome to use it. So he'll get a little bit of rest there, but he's a big part of our order. I mean, he's right in the middle with Vernon, protecting Robbie a lot of nights. Done a great job.
Now, of all the injuries, my personal thought is that the one that really affects the Yankees the most is Teixeira, because he kind of balances the lineup. But the guy who's filled in at first base, it really has done an unbelievable job.
He really has, and his struggles a little bit have come against left-handers. We've probably had to play him against left-handers more than we want, but he's had some big hits. He's been great, and he's outstanding defensively. We don't lose anything putting him out there, and we look forward to getting Mark to come back. I mean, he's on the mend, and we're excited about that, but Lyle's done a great job.
All right, Brennan Bosch is the guy you got in spring training. I guess he thought he was going to play more, but then you got Vernon Wells. So is it tough for you to keep him sharp, that when you use him as a pinch hitter, that he's effective?
It is. He's not playing like he's used to. He's used to playing every day, and we understand that. But we know that he's a threat off our bench. He allows me to spell one of our outfielders. When we face some right-handers, I can give Vernon a day off. So he's been important, too.
Now, Ben Francisco, I think a lot more was expected of him. He did have a home run this week, but why is Ben struggling so much?
It could be we didn't see any lefties the first 10 days. I think we saw one the first 10 days, and he kind of, had to sit a lot and didn't get a lot of at-bats. And we believe that he'll get going. He had a big home run the other night for us. And we're going to see a couple lefties in Colorado, and he's going to get some time probably. So we think he'll get going.